Hey, everybody. I have such an incredible friend of mine on the show today. He has his own podcast and doing this work, I love to connect with other people who are in alignment and get to do what I do too. So, without further ado, Henry, my great friend, please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Francesca, well, thank you for having me on. And hello to everybody that's listening. I'm really excited to be here. Just to make it simple, I'm somebody that is just on a quest to raise my vibrational state and then give that away to others. I'm in the commercial world working in fitness. I work for Gold's Gym, and I also have my podcast, the Positive Mindset Podcast, where I'm building stuff around there. And I'm just somebody that found a mission of wanting to uplift others and trying to just step forward and do that in each and everything that I do. I'm married, I have kids, the whole, regular person just trying to make an impact. And it's been a powerful couple of years now, a year and a half or so of doing the podcasting and really growing into someone that's trying to help people.
Yeah, and it's an incredible podcast, my friends. I will let you know that there will be a link. It's the Positive Mindset Podcast. I follow, I listen, which is kind of what connected me to Henry because he's just so great at it. And he just told us what he does, right? Henry, you told us you have the corporate balance with this mission. So tell us a story, Henry. Unpack this story that you and I talked about when we initially connected and how you keep that balance and how you allow the positive mindset to really lead your days so you can assist others.
Absolutely. And I think this is, if you're listening and you're someone that is committed to self-improvement, or you find yourself being the hardest worker in the room, then I think this is going to be really relevant to you, because that is something that I saw myself as someone that would always give my best at my job and was always willing to help people. And I loved working with people and helping them grow. I loved doing development plans, and that was all corporate stuff where it didn't matter who you are. If you were a club manager, a frontline employee, if you were open to development, I always enjoyed working with you. And unfortunately, through the pandemic, working in fitness, we were an industry that was hit really hard. And due to the location where I lived, I was let go. And through that time, you do a lot of reflection. And I was doing a lot of reflection on what I loved about my job, because you're thinking about what you do next. Do you go to a different industry? Do you try to find a job similar? And I just was reviewing, and one of the top things that I love doing was helping others. And so I started thinking about the people that I had really worked with, like really, whether you call it mentor, friendship, just really gave everything I could to help them grow, and how far they had gone and achieved, and how much they had grown compared to me. Now, most of them were
Mm.
younger or newer to their career, but they were moving a lot faster than I was. And I realized I need that same focus. I need a perspective shift for myself. And so I
Mm.
started the podcast. I had it in existence, but I decided to name it the Positive Mindset Podcast. And the idea was I would outline something that I'm struggling with and then coach myself on it. And that's how I started
Mm.
sharing the podcast. And now it's grown. We actually just crossed 1 million downloads. And if you add it up,
Wow.
a little over a year, which is amazing.
Congrats.
And it's
Yeah.
just about trying to grow and then give away knowledge each time you grow. That's kind of the idea,
Mm.
and how we got here.
I love it. It is such a great story because I I was in fitness, but I was a group fitness director while in corporate, and I struggled with finding that balance. And you're in the industry, and it doesn't always align, and you found that balance. And I just love how you share your growth with others. I feel that lifting others lifts ourselves. So it's an incredible creation that you have, Henry, and I congratulate you on the success of that podcast. I mean, tell me some major things that you've learned through this growth process that perhaps we can share.
I
What's
think,
what are a few
yeah.
things?
So one thing, if anybody can develop this has been by accident, I guess, and that's shifting perspective. So being able
Mm.
to have like a third person view, like just a high end view of your life or someone else's life, whatever it is that you're perspecting, it allows you to really just make adjustments as necessary and not be so stuck in that moment and think long term, like the impact beyond yourself of
Mm,
things. And when you think about an uplifted perspective, high vibrational, positive frequency perspective, it allows you to get that alignment. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned is that, we talk about living in the now, and the now is all there is for sure. But having that perspective to be outside of self and just see the thing as a whole is probably the biggest skill that I've learned. And
mm.
through that, I actually ended up back at Gold. So I was let go, ended up back at Gold's, and I didn't pursue it. I just pursued myself and growth, and gained a lot of confidence that I just didn't have before in certain areas where maybe at work I wouldn't talk about what rate of frequency you're in or your vibrational state or things like that,
Yeah,
because you would feel like that might be looked weird upon, or people might
right.
judge that a certain way. And I was able to come back into my role that I was in. I was a district manager before in a larger capacity. I actually have more responsibility than I did before, but I'm not afraid of those things because what's the worst that could happen? They could let me go again. Like I survived after that and flourished and grew. And so that's probably been the biggest thing, is that when something that you would consider bad happens, and losing your job is not the worst thing. It is rough. And I mean, I'm the sole provider for my family, so it was scary.
Sure.
But when those things happen and you make it through that opportunity to grow, like I think this is all opportunities to grow. And some people do go through stronger opportunities than others. When you come out the other side, I don't know if you're better, but you are more just aligned if you come out in a positive sense, if you have that
Mm-hmm.
perspective shift with everything. So that's been the biggest thing, is that perspective is everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything.
It's everything. And thank you for sharing that story. Yeah, because losing your job, especially as the sole provider of a family, it's devastating. But you took it as a gift of time, a gift of growth. And I love how you also said, Henry, what's the worst that can happen? What, they're going to fire me again? I survived. I'm a survivor. So
Yeah,
in this time of transition, just know, and as we're setting goals for the year, right, there's a lot going on with a lot of people and their families and decisions and perspective shifting. But I love that you share the positive mindset is the thing. That is what we focus on. That is what makes us, that's what drives us, right? I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And, it's not woo woo. There's definitely something about having this mindset. It's not a woo woo made up thing. It's a feeling, it's an energy, right?
absolutely.
Truly.
And I think when you're talking about that energy and growth and opportunity, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't had a big thing happen, like losing your job, you might be in a harder place to make a
Mm,
change. And sometimes it's harder to leave a job than get fired and make that change.
mm.
So that's just something to think about as we go into the new year. How can you make a positive change by your
Right.
own choice?
How can you make a positive change by your own choice? So, but let me dig into that for a second, that you think it's harder to leave a job on your own than to be asked to leave.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Having that security, if you have a salary that meets certain needs, it's hard to grow. So a lot of the coworkers that I worked with before that are still there, they're still the same. So even though they got to
Mm,
keep their job, they didn't go through a difficult situation. They're the same as they are when I knew them a year and a half ago, versus I
hmm,
changed a lot.
right.
And so as we go into the new year, I start thinking about making episodes or content for the new year, because a lot of people working in fitness, I know that's what a lot of people, new year, new me, all those things.
Hmm.
I think the biggest opportunity as a whole, and most likely if you're listening and you're thinking positivity, like you want something positive, you want a change, is how can you find the, whether it's strength, courage, motivation, desire, whatever it is, to make that change, so that way a year or 14 months from now your way evolved than where you are currently. And I think that's probably the biggest opportunity as like a human species, is like
Mm,
everything is so comfortable.
yeah,
And so growth really can't happen in comfort. And
that's right.
it's a, as a as someone that is looking to hire people, within the fitness, looking for operators and trainers and all those things, like it is a employees market right now.
Yes, it
Like
is.
if you want to do the work, you can catapult your role, your position, your influence, all those things. And it's just really powerful time for people that want to level up.
And you know what? This is definitely going to be one of my takeaways, but growth can't happen in comfort. That is like something that belongs in a pillow, on billboards.
Yeah.
And listening to what you just told me, like you returned to Gold's, and the people that were still there didn't change. So my guess is, however, they did notice a change in you, correct? Or
They're
no? Or
starting
did
to,
they?
for sure. Yeah. I
They're
mean,
starting to. Okay.
I'm able to, and I think we're getting a lot to the business side, and I don't
Yeah.
know if this is what everybody listens to it for or not, but I'm able to know what I'm doing differently. And that
Mhm.
impacts you in a way when it comes time for raises, reviews, promotions, all that stuff. I'm hyper aware of how different my impact is, not only to my previous self, but also what everyone else is doing. So that's the biggest thing. Most people aren't self-aware of what they're doing. So they're not going to be aware of the differences. And then most people will see you as a delta. They see this version of you that's over the past few years. If you start changing things, they probably don't notice right away. Like if you
Right.
go on a diet and you lose a little bit of weight, people probably don't notice when you lose the first couple pounds, but then once you've lost 15 or 20 pounds, then like, oh, are you losing weight? It hits them. And so
Right.
that's how the change is hitting now. Cause I've only been back for 2 months, 2.5 months. So
Okay.
it's a short
Yeah.
period of time, but I
Right.
just know that what I'm doing is so different. And definitely it's not about me. It's just different. But next year in 2022 and just forever, probably going forward, the landscape is going to be so different. And I
Mhm.
think if you're feeling unsettled or you're feeling like you're someone that wants to just change something, like that's probably your conscious telling you that you're not fulfilling what you're capable of doing. Now, with that comes maybe more pay, maybe more influence, all those results in it. But
Right.
I don't think that's what makes people happy. I mean, it certainly does. Being able to pay your bills and having wealth is
Right.
for
Right.
sure great to have, but you could have that and be miserable in a job, or you could have that and be waking up every day at 3:30 in the morning because you're so excited to go do your job.
Yeah. What a difference that is, right? And what a great perspective you have. What a great podcast you have in sharing um the ways that you do it every day. And just so all of you know, I mean, they are short and great points that Henry makes um 2 times a week in his messaging. And thank you for sharing all of that, because it is what this show is about. And we mentioned the word confidence. It's also about us being better people, becoming our best selves, so that we can support everyone around us, whether it be our family or our coworkers or whatever we do from day to day. So I think that's great. And I'm so honored to have you as a guest. So we haven't talked about this, but when we were in the green room before we
Yeah.
started recording, I said we were talking about our bracelets, and
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if you could tell me, and I'm taking a guess as to what the answer is, but what's your favorite piece of clothing or accessory of all time, and how does it make you feel?
Okay, so first I'm gonna have to say my wedding ring. I'm gonna have to have to give that first
Let's,
to get
all
out
right,
there.
we'll say that
Um,
first.
but that's
Sure.
more of like a standard now. It's not something that you wear by choice. That probably sounds bad, but it's not accessory. Like that's something you just are going to do regardless, is have that on. So it's
Yes.
not something that you're adding to it. So I've recently got into, I've never been a fashion person or anybody that really even thought about what clothes I was wearing. Generally, the clothes I was wearing that year is what I probably got on my birthday and Christmas and things like that. I just
Hmm.
never was that person that would want to spend money or think about spending money on clothing. But through perspective shifting and really trying to create a version of myself, I've started becoming more intentional about what I wear and why I wear it and the impact I want it to make. And so the newest piece that I have right now, it's actually a bracelet from Fierce Forward Jewelry. It's really just a reminder of what I'm trying to do. It's actually called the Positive Mindset Bracelet. We teamed up and put it together, and it has a citrine stone on it, but there's many stones that you can choose from. But when I wear it, it's something newer to me. I've only been wearing it for like a month,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit big, it makes a little bit of noise, and I hit it on things and stuff like that. So it's a constant reminder when in the morning I do my meditation and visualize not only the day, but the higher version of myself that is the CEO of, a worldwide company, is reaching 1 million people a month. That version of myself, I'm
Mhm.
wearing this bracelet. And so what I do is I really tie myself to it. So that way throughout the day, I'm constantly reminded of those thoughts that I put in my mind, versus without it, the day is going to sidetrack you from those thoughts you built in. So it's a constant reminder of that version that it exists and makes it more real. So I'd say the bracelet right now, and of course that could be anything. You could charge that with anything, but for me,
Sure.
I really like this because it's different. And that was the intention behind it when it was created.
I love that. I love all the words that you use to describe that, especially using it as a reminder of your intention for the day, right? That's in the visualization. You're doing so many great things that I love to talk about. This was just an incredible conversation. Henry, my friend, um, if someone want to get in touch with you and continue this conversation or just say hi, where's the best place for them to find you so I can link it into the show notes?
Absolutely. So, of course, you can always check out the podcast. It's the Positive Mindset Podcast. It's on all podcasting platforms. So, whether you listen through Google, iTunes, Spotify, it's on every single one. Very easy to find. And they're short episodes like this. So that way you can get the message and move out throughout your day. But if you want to communicate, definitely Instagram. Instagram is the best way. People message me all the time, just sharing their perspective, their experience, like whatever they want to share. That's the place to do it. So both those places are perfect.
Awesome. I will link it through, and trust me when I tell you, my friends, he's definitely worth a listen. I mean, you just got a great taste of him right here with this wonderful interview. Thank you so much, Henry, for your time today. You are a gem. I love starting the year off with you, and we have a lot to look forward to in 2022. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Mhm.